think then we are moving on to our final speaker for the session as well. And on that one, we'll be joined now by Ngoanathari Maja, and she'll be speaking to us a little bit, just sharing some thoughts around realizing opportunities for an energy-resilient industrial sector. So Ngoanathari is one of our Gauteng-based project managers. She's been with the Centre for quite a number of years now, and has been very instrumental in the Gauteng energy activities that have been undertaken through that team. So thank you, Ngoanathari, for sharing your story. Welcome. A little bit different. That's forward and that's back. Okay, and pointer.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Ngoanathari, and I'm part of the team at NCPC. Vincent, I am super, super proud of the work that Tiger Brands has done. I remember when we started the journey many years ago, the leadership that Julie provided, your involvement, Kavita, Melanie, everybody at Tiger. It fills my heart when we see this type of impact. Not because it's what the NCPC does, but because of the value that it brings to you as a business. So well done, and I can't wait to hear more good stories. My chat this morning with you is going to be a little bit informal. I just want to share thoughts as I personally reflect on the 10 plus years of the IEE project in South Africa, and of course also the over 2 decades of the work that the NCPC has done. And just some reflection and also thinking of, now that we're reaching this milestone with the IEE project, what does the future of the NCPC energy portfolio look like? Or rather, what does industry do now to rather scale the work and the pioneering work that the NCPC has done over the years and the IEE project has done? So that's what my talk is going to be about. Do I point or just press? Nothing's happening.
There you go.
Oh, there. Okay. I am particularly thinking about where we are, the events that we've experienced globally with the economy, the impacts of COVID, and how that impacts businesses. And what can we do about it? How do we make sure that we sustain all the work that we've been doing in the space of energy management and energy efficiency in South Africa? Okay, so I'll just touch a little bit on the context, just some reflection points, just pondering also on what does this future now looks like. The world is moving towards target setting around net zero. What does that mean for business? Does that make sense for South African industries to even start talking about net zero? Are there opportunities there? Is there a way that we can fast track how we recover as industry, given all these different challenges that we're facing? Okay, and lastly, I'll end my. I'm sorry about that. And lastly, I'll end my talk this morning with just trying to connect the dots, looking at the legacy that the IE project has done, or the foundation that the IE project has given us, and what we can do with it so that we expand energy efficiency and energy management, and the entire topic around decarbonization in South Africa. Okay, so my first reflection point was looking back at where we started. As Kevin has shared this morning, we have been in this journey for 10 plus years. And if you really look at where we started, I'm sorry. back many years ago when South Africa started experiencing the shock of rolling blackouts and load shedding, we experienced the global economic crash that was as a result of the USA. And then, of course, now the launch of the IE project in response to the energy security issues that we were experiencing in the country. And then almost 10 plus years later, this has been the impact that the project has achieved, and Kevin shared this with you. But if you look at it, a lot has happened in between that period from when we first launched the IE project and where we are today. We've gone through ESCOM. I don't need to elaborate on what the challenges has been with ESCOM. We've gone through a lot of changes around policy. We've gone through cabinet reshuffling, and that sometimes meant changing position with policy around renewables energy and the energy sector as a whole. We've gone through conflicts. We're going through conflicts with international wars, also across the African continent. But there's also been some positive. It's not always been doom and gloom. We've seen the impressive expansion of the independent power producer program. We've seen the work around developing sectoral master plans, introduction of climate change bills and setting up carbon budgets. And of course, most impressively as well, we've seen just how rapidly the cost of renewable energy technologies have gone down from where we were in 2010 to where we are today. So the goal of merging energy efficiency and renewable energy seems now more attainable because it's becoming a lot more cost effective for industry to blend these two strategies as we look into energy security and greenhouse gas reduction. Of course, this is just a sample of some of the challenges that we've dealt with throughout this timeline, with COVID being one of the recent challenges that we're dealing with. Okay. So as I ponder, my question, or maybe even a question to you is, what will 2030 look like? What will 2050 look like for South African industry? Is our economy really on par to recover? And we know that energy plays quite a vital role in any economic growth in the economic growth for any country. And as I was preparing for this, I saw some very discouraging headlines around just what experts are projecting around what the recovery prospects looks like for South Africa. Some projections saying that we may not ever reach the pre-COVID economic performance, or that we will recover really, really slow. We've seen recently the impacts of weather-related risks that are posed on businesses, with, of course, what happened in the KZN region and just the devastation that the manufacturing sector, in this case Toyota, faced. And what that meant for not just the KwaZulu-Natal economy, but for South Africa as a whole. Okay. And of course, we have been exposed to just the realities around energy security in South Africa, with studies being done on just what the economic impact of this would be. Some experts estimating that it cost over 500 million rand per load shedding stage. So it looks like we are in for a tough ride when we're considering how we recover. And not to mention, I skip a slide, but not to mention just the challenges around water security. Our energy generation system at the moment is water intensive based on the technologies that we use. So the water and energy nexus proving to be quite something that we need to work on as a country. So, having said that, how do we then, as businesses, start tackling all these challenges, see how we can build in a better way? And I would like to present, and this ties to the point that Vincent mentioned earlier, that without top management commitment in all of this, we will not realize sustained savings. So I would like, as a reflection point from what we've learned over the years to where we need to be, to really put issues of energy management at the center of business planning and strategic decision-making, especially investment within businesses, so that we can start influencing business models to have more transformed businesses that prove the test of time. We don't want to find instances where when the technical team, for example, moves on to do other roles within the business, because there wasn't a strategic position or strategic leadership, everything, all those good work, the projects that were done falls through. Okay, so what I would like to pose rather is that let's now, looking into the future, work on how can we move this discussion around projects for energy efficiency, energy management, which I think traditionally and also in my experience, our engineers, our technical team has really been on board and moving with things. How do we then make sure that it is not just the responsibility of the production manager, it's not just the responsibility of the maintenance engineer or the engineering manager? How do we make sure that it gets its rightful place in the boardroom where the key decision makers are? Okay. Most of us are, of course, familiar with the realities around climate action and the climate goals, and of course the consensus that we all need to be working towards aligning our climate mitigation efforts to the 1.5 degree target. And I would like to believe that we've also been exposed to what our international scientific community communicates with regard to what can happen or what we projected to experience should we not take climate change seriously. And of course, the point of contention has always been over the years, does it make business sense to focus on climate change mitigation? And I think we've reached a stage where these two concepts don't have to compete anymore. It can be economically beneficial to industry to pursue climate ambition and also realize savings. We've seen this through the work that we've done at the NCPC, the many case studies which I encourage that you look into on our website. We've seen demonstration cases that showcase the low-hanging fruits that energy efficiency presents, the low-hanging fruits that implementing energy management system presents. So I think we've proven the concept, and these two worlds don't have to clash anymore. That we can get to a stage where we can start finding harmony between balancing the two goals to make business, of course, profitable, while at the same time making sure that we take care of our environmental well-being. So having said that, I think as we look into the next 10 years, the next 20 years of what energy efficiency or energy management could potentially look like for South Africa and the NCPC, is of course now starting to pay more effort into strategic discussion around how do we transform business models so that we support all this technical work that happens at operational level to reduce energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. Okay? And one of the things that I love is to not try to reinvent the wheel. The good thing is that globally there's already been frameworks and standards that are being set up to try and align efforts towards common understanding of what making progress on climate mitigation looks like. Okay? So, I think traditionally and historically, the NCPC, with the work that we've been doing to support you as industry, we've been just trying to prove that the concept works, making sure that we provide the necessary support to you as business, and we focus a lot of our work here. And that's where the early wins and the quick wins went, which was a good thing. So now, as we move on to this next decade of energy management, my call is to now start moving the discussion further up the decision-making chain and see also what mechanism can we put into place to support not only how we operationalize energy efficiency and energy management, but other supporting pillars as well. Over the years, we've received feedback that finance or implementation finance mechanism still remains one area that we need to look into. Skills development, of course, it's one area also that we need to do. Very key as well as supporting pillars for this new way of tackling the future is peer learning and collaboration. There's a lot of lessons that we could share with one another across sectors, across industry, that will make sure that we reach the climate mitigation goals that we have. And of course, we need clear national policy frameworks. Okay, so this session is not, the intent is not to go into very deep detail about what this science-based framework for setting targets around climate change, but it's just to introduce, for those that are not familiar with it, introduce you to this concept and start the wheels turning around. How can you now elevate the work that you've been doing around energy management to speak now to the broader concept around sustainability and climate resilience? So the Science-Based Targets Initiative is a globally recognized body that enables businesses across different sectors, of course, to set ambitious greenhouse gas reduction targets that are in line with scientific methodology, or that are more realistic scientifically. I think traditionally what we've been doing as industry is, especially, for example, in energy management system implementation, we have been, of course, encouraging companies that just start with a target. Give yourself a target and then work towards that. But now the question is, given what the IPCC community is revealing about just the urgency to act on climate change, how do we know that we're doing enough? How do we know what that North Star should look like for us with greenhouse gas reduction? Okay. So there is this framework that has, it's a work in progress, but it's fairly well developed now for industry to start now looking into it and recalibrating how you've been setting your targets around sustainability. Okay. The goal, of course, is to provide confidence worldwide and consensus, and make sure that companies have confidence that the targets that they set will overall support the global efforts towards reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and working towards achieving the net zero target by 2050. Okay. So just in a nutshell, the science-based target and why industry should start thinking along these lines or caring about that, because every industry needs to participate. Your contribution matters. It is very also instrumental in how it can help shape your business strategy. It can also help drive innovation, and we've seen just how by just only looking at energy efficiency and energy management, you start unearthing innovative practices within the industrial sector. So now imagine if you take that and you expand it to more concepts around sustainability. Of course, we know that by so doing, we'll potentially increase our competitive edge. And most importantly, I think, is to help us manage future risks. For companies that are in the export market, for example, let's say the automotive sector, we're seeing more and more demand for the European market around clean energy or green energy targets. So the companies that start looking into this in a more strategic lens, you also position yourself, you increase your competitive advantage and potentially mitigate against regulations around trade and how you expand your business to the global market. Of course, as well, mitigation around carbon pricing. And another key, which I think is going to become more and more important, is for business to understand what their climate vulnerabilities are and working around risk mitigation strategies for that. Critical to South Africa, of course, is the issue of energy security, which I think is a pain point for every business. So this is not necessarily a separate new concept, but it's building and expanding on the concept that the NCPC has been teaching over the years, and we're elevating this now to a more strategic position within businesses. Okay, so in summary and in a nutshell, this methodology would enable you to make sure that you understand, you measure, you quantify all your greenhouse gas emissions across Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. You set targets that are based on a solid scientific methodology aligned to the 1.5 degrees Celsius climate target. And then you work with partners to see how you can start modeling your business to explore different decarbonization pathways for your business and what business growth opportunities that presents. I feel like I've been turning, I hope you don't feel offended. I realize now that I've been talking the whole session this way. So, all right. The last activity there, of course, is to encourage businesses then to start making commitments and plans on how do we deal with any remaining or residual greenhouse gas emissions. And this now start touching into those areas of carbon capture and other technologies around removing the actual emissions in the atmosphere. Okay. So just to connect the dots, we've spent 20 years with 10 plus years within the IE project giving you as industry, as energy efficiency, resource efficiency practitioners, tools on what you can do on the ground to effect change around sustainability. So we spent time really building what I would say is your sustainability toolkit, and that took many years in the making with a lot of partners, of course, working on this. And I'll say you have a variety and solid tools in your toolkit that you can use to translate what strategy says to what you can do on the ground. Now the goal is to make sure that that strategy is there and it makes sense long term. So through the IE project, we've developed your ISO 50001 energy management system methodology, which helps you to start aligning how you do energy planning, how you monitor it, how you set performance metrics. We've also introduced the technical tool around energy auditing, also introducing what may have been considered novel ideology around starting to think system-wise and not just focusing on component optimization. So those that have gone through our industry assessment or even the capacity building, you now realize the importance of applying systems thinking when you do energy audits within the manufacturing sector, or the industrial sector rather. And of course, as part of the capacity building and what we've shared over the years, we've developed now tools and frameworks on how you can set about effective measurements and monitoring system. We want to introduce concepts around how to do effective baselining that makes sense, that is based on some solid scientific foundation. And we've also, over the years, demonstrated just how behavioral change can help you realize those low-hanging fruits. We've seen with the case of Tiger Brands and even with the case that Lindelane presented earlier, that a lot of the opportunities don't necessarily need to start with high capex investment. So through behavioral change, through operational control, really scrutinizing all those set points that we have in our plants and asking ourselves, do we really need to be producing compressed air at 10 bars? What is the real user requirements? And scrutinizing that. We've also seen cases where other concepts around production scheduling and optimization, improving overall operational efficiencies, combining concepts around lean manufacturing, the old methodology for Six Sigma, just-in-time manufacturing, or preventative maintenance plans. We've seen how that can produce those low-hanging fruits within businesses. Okay, and of course, the one that is always easy to do, just shutting down idling equipment. If you browse through the NCPC website, you will see cases of industry companies that, by just scanning their operational systems and switching things off, they realize quite a significant saving. Of course, opportunities around tariff optimization. Kevin shared earlier that we've developed tools that help you understand the energy bill and start scrutinizing what is the most optimum tariff that my business should be at. Are there opportunities to shift load so that I don't pay energy at the most high price? Okay. The NCPC, of course, has introduced you to a lot of capacity building and skills development, and also a range of low-carbon technologies to support all of this. I think although there still needs to, we're still looking into having further technological advancement around hydrogen and other technologies for decarbonization, especially those difficult to decarbonize sector. The truth is we already have some technologies that we can start taking advantage of. Technologies around efficient lighting, energy efficient motors, energy efficient materials. That's already proven, is at a commercial stage. It's now for industry to start tapping into that and see how you roll it out to reduce energy consumption. Opportunities around electrifying heat, renewable heat, solar thermal, heat pump technologies, waste heat recovery, which still remains a neglected opportunity in the industry. That is there. The question now is, how do we take all of this and make sure that we put in place in our businesses a strategy and a framework that will stand the test of time, irrespective of who is coming into the organization, and to make sure that it also directs discussion at top level, it directs investment decisions as well. in my closing remarks, I would like to end by proposing, or rather sharing, that I think what we need to do now going forward is to think about how we scale this thing, how we fast track this whole topic around transition and decarbonization. And if you look at it, traditionally, even the way the NCPC has been working, and perhaps that's even how you as energy efficiency practitioners or resource efficiency practitioners have been approaching it. We've been taking one company at a time, doing isolated work there. But I think the opportunity to really see massive growth in this field, if we start thinking around how do we optimize value chains. So, for example, if we are the NCPC, or you are a consultant who is now approaching a new potential client, instead of just having a discussion around what is happening within the premises of the factory, expand that discussion and talk about what is happening upstream and what's happening downstream of your business, and how can we collaborate with your upstream clients, your downstream client, to make sure that we optimize and reduce greenhouse gas across value chains. I think that is what is going to be the biggest game changer in how big and how fast we move with decarbonization efforts. And we've seen some cases that where industry is starting to move into this space. Example would be what is happening within the automotive sector. Just a few weeks ago, we were in the Eastern Cape and visiting a couple of clients, and they shared with us that they are a supplier of Mercedes-Benz, and as a supplier, Mercedes-Benz went on to communicate with them that they need to start setting renewable energy targets in their businesses, because they are now Mercedes is now starting to think about life cycle of their products and what their carbon footprint of their product looks like. And they are now starting to collaborate with their suppliers across the value chain. So I think that is the thinking that is going to be really a game changer as we accelerate. And of course also tapping into existing corporate instruments. If you really look into opportunities around small, medium businesses, so it could be a small, medium business that is supplying a big corporate. Can we start looking into what we have around supplier development and channeling some of these resources to also start addressing issues of energy efficiency, resource efficiency, and energy management? And what is also encouraging is to see that in the finance sector also, we're starting to see very innovative, forward-thinking support. I saw now with Nedbank launching a support program to help the manufacturing sector recover and to transition to more greener and sustainable practices. Okay. So in closing, I would say that as we look into the future, let's start thinking more along what impact do we want to see. Of course, at the end, where we now, as consumers, we're interacting with the products, how do we make sure that we work across the value chain to start reducing the greenhouse gas of all these products that we consume daily? And I think by focusing on that, we will see more growth around adoption of decarbonization, more growth around development of low carbon technologies, and I think we'll collectively reach even bigger targets if we look into things that way. So that's just some thoughts that I wanted to share as we turn this chapter on the 10 years that has been the IE project and what's next now for the NCPC. I hope I gave you something to think about, and thank you for your time.